a 26-1 record, 3 conference championships, a Tewaaraton winner, and that's just part of the resume for Maryland men's lacrosse over the past 2 years. And they've got big hopes for the rest of this season. It's time to take a closer look at the program right now on the Left Bench in Focus.
Let's just take a deep breath. Let's take a step back and enjoy the moment.
Hello and welcome to the second edition of the Left Bench in Focus. I'm Kevin McNulty.
And I'm Katie Maher. It's no secret Maryland men's lacrosse has been unstoppable this season. And we're about to talk about all of the reasons why.
And Katie, this team hasn't trailed a game by more than a goal all year. And of course, their record stands at 11-0. But its most recent game almost gave fans a scare. You're right, Kevin. The first 3 quarters of Saturday's game was unlike anything we've seen from the Hardshells this season, so let's get straight into the recap. Number 9 Ohio State proved to be a worthy opponent against the top-ranked Terps, but John Tillman's squad walked away from this one with yet another conference title. Eric Molliver and Roman Puglisi had the Terps up 2-0 almost immediately on Saturday, but the Buckeyes fired back with 2 of their own. Soon after, they went on a 5-0 run to put the Terps down 7-3, their largest deficit of the season. But who else than the all-time leading point scorer Logan Wisnauskas to fire some energy back into his team, netting 2 consecutive goals in the second quarter. He would start the Terps on a 4-0 run before halftime to even things out at 7 apiece before the final 30 minutes of regulation. The third quarter was a back-and-forth affair, and check out this awesome dish from Brett Makar to Puglisi for the goal. The Hardshells then went on an offensive tear in the fourth, adding 7 to the board and holding the Buckeyes to only 1. Wisnauskas led with 5 goals and dished 2 assists on the day, and 10 different Terps added to the wealth in the 19-12 win. That clinched Maryland's second consecutive Big Ten regular season title, the 6th since joining the conference. Here's Coach Tillman on the early game struggles and Roman Puglisi on what this team is fighting for.
I thought we may not have shot as well as we would have liked. I thought maybe at times we rushed some things. I think we telegraphed some of our shots. We dropped our stick and went low to low. And a veteran guy, a senior, when you drop your stick, he's going to match you. And then in tight, at times we would redirect it quickly. He did a great job of staying high, which is what you want your goalie to do.
We're a family here. I think I told the guys before the game, the train's going to end here soon. You don't know when we're going to, be kicked off at any stop. So let's just take a deep breath. Let's take a step back and enjoy the moment. Enjoy the opportunity. We only got so many left in Bird and so many left in general. So just happy that we get to go on it with these guys and continue to bond and grow and keep building that love that we have for each other. Hopefully it keeps turning into something special.
And to talk more about Saturday's game and break down this team as it stands right now, we're happy to bring in Tony Wheeler from Inside Maryland Sports, who joins us via Zoom. Tony, it's good to see you.
Kevin, hey Katie, thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and let's start with Saturday, when Maryland trailed by more than 1 goal for the first time all year. What was going wrong for the Terps in that first half, and how did they eventually correct it?
It seemed like what was really happening was off-ball defense. Ohio State runs kind of an interesting offense. It's really like a heavy Canadian box influence kind of offense. And a lot of their pick games, not just behind the net, but in front of the goal, were causing problems with the Terps. If you saw the game, if you were watching it on television, you heard the commentators talking a lot about Brett Makar being so worried about what Jack Myers from Ohio State was doing, that he was often losing track of what was happening off ball. And I think what happened during halftime is Coach Tillman and Coach Barnhart got together and really helped that defense sort through their off-ball communication. And I think what you saw in the second half was really that. They got a lot better, not just playing the pick game behind, but also off ball, making sure that they were communicating with each other and covering that interior defense.
Yeah, there was a huge second half adjustment, and a lot of the credit for that turnaround on Saturday has to go to Luke Weirman, who was 7 for 9 on faceoffs in the fourth quarter and 120 overall. How have you seen Weirman and his Wings grow this season now that he takes the grand majority of faceoffs for the Terps?
Katie, it's so amazing watching his entire development. If we remember last time we saw him at the end of last season, he's winning that faceoff in the national title game. He's going down the middle of the field and he's taking that shot that gets saved. You saw the same exact thing play out in the fourth quarter. Gets the faceoff, goes straight down, and this time takes a shot high and beats the goalie. What's happening with him really is just his confidence and his technique has really improved. And he uses his wings more effectively. You'll actually see him and his wings communicate with each other. So he's putting the ball out when he needs to, or they're telling him when to play forward or play backwards. So they've really come together, not just as individual parts, but as what's happening as a collective group there on that face-off team.
Yeah, we all remember that face-off in the national title game. Of course, a heartbreaker, but it was good to see him correct that, and he's having a great season so far. Now, finally, Tony, I've heard you ask John Tillman multiple times about the development of Ajax Zapatello on defense. What really stands out to you about the jump he's made from year 1 to year 2 in College Park?
It's really hard to even think of a player in recent Maryland history on defense that has made such a leap from his freshman year to his sophomore year. As a freshman, he was playing up top as a long stick midfielder. He got in the title game. He was playing. He wasn't their first long stick midfielder. That's John Geppert, who really is an All-American and is playing like an All-American. When they moved him down to that close defense position, that's normally quite an adjustment for a lot of players to make. What's been amazing about Ajax is he's been able to play off ball and on ball. In a lot of the games he's played this year, he's actually taken the opponent's top offensive dodger. Really, really rare to see someone with relatively little experience taking that chore on, especially when you have someone like Brett Makar. What really is kind of a lot of Ajax's game, what makes him so good right now, if you watch his footwork and the way he's approaching attackmen, he's hardly ever taking bad angles. He's always making sure that he's closing off angles. He's not getting beat when his attackmen are changing speeds or changing directions. And that's really just a credit to being fundamentally sound with his footwork.
And Tony, thanks so much for being here. That's all we have for you, but we hope to see you out in Baltimore this weekend.
Looking forward to, guys. Take care. Thanks for having me.
You can read all of Tony's lacrosse coverage at 247sports.com and follow him on Twitter at WheelsRI. And though the 2021-22 teams are fresh on our minds, it might be time to take a look back at some of the other squads that have graced the turf in College Park during John Tillman's tenure.
Our Jonas Evans is here to take a look at how Tillman's best teams match up with this year's Terps. Jonas?
Yeah, guys, this team is one for the ages. John Tillman's tenure at Maryland started in 2011 when he left Harvard to take over in College Park. Fast forward to today, and Tillman has reestablished Maryland as one of the premier men's lacrosse schools in the country. Even with all of his success so far as Maryland's head coach, this season's team is setting new records. So, how does this 2022 Maryland men's lacrosse team compare to all the other squads that Tillman has coached to deep NCAA tournament runs? Well, let's first look at Tillman's resume. In his 11 years coaching the team, the Terps have been dominating men's lacrosse. Tillman has taken the Terps to 6 national championships. That's double the next closest team. Those 11 years of excellence culminated in a national title win in 2017. Even with all these great teams, this 2022 squad is putting up record numbers. Statistically, this is John Tillman's greatest scoring team yet. The Terps offense has been on another level this season with 202 goals in just 11 games. Compared to all of Maryland's teams since 2011, this season's Terps are averaging the most goals per game with 18.4. But that's not all. The 2022 team is also Tillman's most accurate. The Terps have had the decade's best shooting percentage and shot on goal percentage. And don't forget, this squad is undefeated. Maryland hasn't lost a game this year, and with only one regular season game to go, a perfect season is on the table. Of course, the Terps have been really close before. It was just a year ago Maryland came into the NCAA championship undefeated on the season. Just like this year's team, they didn't drop a single regular season game and won the Big Ten regular season title. But last year's Terps lost a heartbreaker to Virginia, 17-16. Now, fast forward 12 months, and Jon Tillman has yet another chance at achieving a perfect season, which would mean no losses and an NCAA title. That's something that hasn't been done in men's lacrosse since Virginia in 2006. And guys, this perfect season is in no way guaranteed. Just look how close Maryland was to losing against Ohio State just a few days ago.
Yeah, that first half was a nail-biter, but we saw the offensive and defensive effort in the second half and really come back. So gives us a lot of hope for what Tillman can do with the squad this year and avenge last year's loss.
Yeah, last year it really took a very solid, very talented Virginia team to knock them off in the final game of the year. So they're certainly capable of getting it done. Thanks, Jonas.
Thanks, Jonas.
Now don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll be joined in studio by standout grad transfer Jon Donville, and we'll highlight our top 3 plays of the season so far.
And we'll take a look back at what makes the Maryland-Johns Hopkins rivalry so special as the Terps gear up for the 115th installment of The Rivalry on Saturday. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Left Bench in Focus, where today we're talking all things Maryland men's lacrosse.
That's right. And Kevin, I think if this season has proven anything, it's how bad Tillman and his squad really want to avenge last year's national championship. And they've been stellar on offense this year, really spreading the wealth. Would you go so far to say that they're better this year offensively, even without Tewaaraton winner Jared Bernhardt?
Yeah, well, first, Katie, you say that they really want to avenge that loss. They did on March 19th in D.C. with a 23-12 win over that Virginia team that took them down just by a goal in the national championship last year. And I will go as far to say that this offense is more well-rounded without Jared Bernhardt. Jared Bernhardt is one of the best players that college lacrosse has seen in the past couple of years, ever, obviously, but all these guys that they have, Wisnauskas, you can go all the way down. Their transfers, and Kahn and Jon Donville, these guys can score, and all of them are capable of going to the cage, and they do a great job of sharing it, like you said. So, yeah, I'll call this offense a little bit more well-rounded this season without Bernhardt.
And I think another factor is who they played last year versus this year. Last year, they were only up against Big Ten opponents because of COVID, and there's only 6 men's lacrosse teams in the Big Ten. They could have used some more ACC games against big opponents like Virginia, Notre Dame, Duke, and Princeton. They've played 3 out of 4 of those teams this year. They obviously saw Duke in the postseason last year. And I think that adding those teams to that schedule has done a lot for them heading into the postseason. And they're averaging more points per game this year, too. And another thing contributing to it is they're spreading the wealth, and they've got some big defensive names that are also back, like Makar, McNaney. What do you think that's been contributing to everything?
Well, I mean, we talked to Tony Wheeler earlier in the show about Ajax Zapatello really stepping up this year. He has done an amazing job. And then you look at Luke Weirman and the wings, controlling those possessions, and that's been really huge for them all season long, pretty much. John Geppert is, as Tony said, maybe an All-American LSM for the Terps. He's been really good, and they've had to replace Nick Grill on the defensive end, like they had to replace Bernhardt. Nick Grill also went in the PLL draft last year. He was outstanding, and they've done a seamless job. Jesse Bernhardt deserves a lot of credit for what he's done with that defense.
Yeah, and Luke Weirman at the faceoff X, he's not only a faceoff man that's great, but he's a faceoff man that can get to the net. He's got 7 goals this year. He's winning 66% of those faceoffs, and he's got 94 ground balls. And McNaney, he's a star, 105 saves, .536 save percentage. And all that being said, how well-rounded this team is, Kevin, what do you think? Is this the year? Do they avenge that loss and win the championship this year?
I don't see them losing this year. I mean, you just look at the way they've played against teams like Princeton and Rutgers and Virginia, all teams in the top 10. Like you said, they've gotten to go outside the conference this year. I don't see any of those teams beating them. Obviously, they've been tested against Ohio State this past weekend. At Notre Dame, they were really slow in the start. That was their closest game of the year. I think they won by 2 goals only, but obviously, Notre Dame's really talented as well. There are some teams out there that will give them a game, but they are the best team in college lacrosse, and I know they really want to prove it by hoisting that trophy at the end of the year.
Absolutely. Averaging 18.4 points per game this year. That says a lot.
Yeah, well, it's obviously been an incredible season so far, and that means there's been plenty of unbelievable plays to highlight.
So we've looked back and narrowed them down to what we think are the top 3 plays from the Hardshells to this point. Kevin, Start us off.
All right, our number 3 play of the season takes us back to the opener against High Point in February. Logan Wisnauskas dishes to Keegan Kahn, who oh so effortlessly shoots it behind his back without even looking at the net. Wow, that was his first game as a Terp.
Yeah, that was stellar. And in at number 2 comes from this past Saturday. Wisnauskas passes it to Anthony DeMeo, who nets it with a crazy diving shot to his knees. Oh my gosh, let's watch that again. DeMeo can't get a shot on that side, so he tricks his defender, spins around, and sneaks it just past him. Insane stuff.
And our top play of the season is the moment everyone was talking about after Rutgers. Ryan Syracuse's shot is nearly recovered by Rutgers goalie, but in a scramble for the ball, Daniel Kelly gets in there and sneaks it in behind the back, making the fans at Maryland Stadium go crazy. Look at that. And that's a guy that doesn't even get that much playing time.
Oh yeah, speaks about the depth of this team.
Absolutely. Well, John Tillman certainly does a lot in the offseason to put a championship team on the field in the spring. But one thing he did this offseason was secure huge additions from the transfer portal. One of those was former Cornell midfielder Jon Donville, who we're so excited to be joined by now in studio.
John, thanks for coming on. You've been a blast to watch all season.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I mean, your resume, it speaks for itself. Team captain at Cornell, All-American in 2020 and preseason in 2021, not to mention first overall pick in the NLL entry draft in 2021. What made you pick Maryland and not decide to go pro right away?
I think there's really two kind of factors there. One, academically, I wanted to study journalism, and that was an opportunity that, as you guys both know, that you can take in at Maryland. So that was a big part of it. And then I wanted to win a championship. You know, leaving Cornell and not getting to play was probably the hardest thing I've ever been through. So, you know, I didn't want to leave having just played, you know, the 2 years plus a little bit in the COVID year. I wanted one more time, and if I was going to go back to another school, I wanted a chance to win a championship. So having the opportunity to do both at Maryland, it kind of worked out, and obviously I'm glad I made that decision.
Yeah.
And numbers-wise, John, you're having one of your best seasons with 24 goals and 13 assists in 11 games. You quickly became a key part of this Maryland offense, but what has it been like to share the wealth like you guys have all season long?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that. One, you have to be willing, you have to have a group of guys who are willing to sacrifice something and to give something up. And you also have to have a group of guys who are collectively willing to stay aggressive and not just look to one person to kind of make the play. So it's just been fun. It's been really exciting, and it's just really cool opportunity to play with all these great players and, guys who I think Maryland fans have certainly watched for a long time and will remember for a long time after this. And, it's cool to say that I got to play with a Logan Wisnauskas, with Kyle Long, Anthony DeMeo, go up and down the lineup. There's so many great players. So it's cool to, have my part in this story and to say that I was a part of it.
Yeah, and looking ahead to the postseason, you're about to wrap up the regular season this weekend. Everyone knows you guys are fighting for that national title, like you said. What's the mindset for you and the guys heading into the postseason this year? I
think it's just, take it one day at a time. I was actually watching one of the Final Four basketball things, and it said, the best advice someone had ever received for winning the semifinals was just win the semifinals. You can't win the national championship that day. So, I think that's kind of the attitude we're taking. We have obviously big goals for the season, but all we can do this week is play Johns Hopkins as best we can and be as prepared as we can. And if you keep going down that line, all I can do is have the best practice today we can have and that kind of thing. So just taking it one step at a time and not getting ahead of ourselves and staying humble in that way too. And I think it'll work out.
Yeah.
And John, as you mentioned, you are a journalism student in the graduate school. So we thought you'd be good at our game, Who Said What, where we read you quotes from lacrosse press conferences this season, and you have to guess who on your team said it.
Perfect, let's do it.
Ready?
Katie, you want to start?
All right, first one. It's not about being the best in March. You got to be the best down the stretch in May.
I'm going to guess Coach Tillman.
Nope, that would be Anthony DeMeo.
Okay.
It's not about being the best in March. You got to be the best down the stretch in May. So,
Kevin?
He had that big goal on Saturday.
Yeah, that was sick.
Next one. We needed to prove that if we got punched in the face and the chips were down, that we were mentally tough enough to come back and do this.
I think that's Roman Pugliese.
No, if you used your first guess on this one, you would have been right. That was Coach Tillman.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
mentally tough enough if you got punched in the face.
Yeah, that was
He
actually
really
at the end of last year's second game against Hopkins in Baltimore.
Okay.
So that was a bit of a throwback.
We needed to prove that if we got punched in the face and the chips were down, that we were mentally tough enough to potentially come back and do this.
All right, next one. Water off a duck's back, like nothing's gonna phase me, like you're gonna have to kill me.
Is that one of my someone on our team? It's gotta be Makar, right?
No, that would be Logan Wisnauskas.
Okay.
That's also a throwback from last year.
Yeah, we
I feel like
cheated
that's a
on that
classic
one.
Logan line.
Yeah,
It's stuck in our minds. We had to include it.
Water off a duck's back, like nothing's gonna phase me, like you're gonna have to kill me. So
you're gonna have to kill me to get off the field. Yeah. Vintage Wisnauskas. The last one before we head out, this one might be tricky because it's not a guy on the roster. I'll give you a quick hint.
Okay.
We'll do one more before we get some food and head out.
Tillman?
No. Josh Schmidt, your sports information director.
Okay.
And Josh, thank you so much for getting John on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you, Josh.
That one was fun because he came in the Zoom frame and just popped in. So we'll do one more before we head out. And well, John, that's all we got for you today. But thanks so much for being here, and best of luck the rest of the season. Just one more regular season game, then you guys are on to postseason tournaments.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, John. And as John and the rest of the Terps close out their regular season on Saturday night, they're looking to grab one more win to make it an undefeated one. But a familiar foe awaits them in Baltimore.
TLB's Alex Gary tells us why the Maryland Johns Hopkins is not just an ordinary college sports rivalry, but it is the rivalry.
Maryland is known for two things: crab cakes and lacrosse. And on Saturday, two of the most storied collegiate lacrosse programs in the University of Maryland and Johns Hopkins University are going to battle it out in another rendition of the rivalry.
And as the two programs face off for the first time in the 2022 season, the question on everyone's mind will be, who will raise the coveted rivalry trophy? The rivalry has been played almost every year between the Terps and Blue Jays since 1895, with an all-time record of 67, 47, and 1 in favor of the Blue Jays. As tense as the rivalry gets on the field, there's no love lost with the fans either. Blue Jay and Terp fans have become passionate members of the rivalry. On one occasion in 1947, the fans traded blows to each other's campuses. Maryland fans painted "Maryland will beat Hopkins" in black and gold on Johns Hopkins sidewalk, while Johns Hopkins retaliated by stealing the bronze testudo and painting a giant H on it. Since then, pranks have become a little more tame, but the animosity between fan bases remains the same.
In this newest chapter of the rivalry, the Terps come into Saturday's matchup riding a hot streak, most recently winning 11 games straight and being crowned the Big Ten regular season champions. The Blue Jays find themselves on the other end of that spectrum, maintaining a 6-7 record. However, despite previous success, the rivalry brings out the best in both teams.
The 2019 season saw the Blue Jays sweep the Terps in two matchups. However, since then, Blue Jays head coach Dave Petramala stepped down and new coach Peter Milliman has struggled against the Terps. Maryland dominated Johns Hopkins during the 2021 season, defeating them a historic 3 times, which included a win in the Big Ten Championship. In these matchups, Logan Wisnauskas contributed heavily to the stat sheet. He recorded 2 goals, 7 assists in their first matchup, 4 goals, 1 assist, and 1 game winner in the second, and 2 goals and 1 assist in the third. As Wisnauskas leads the Terps with 35 goals in the season, he looks to continue to make a difference in this heated matchup. As Saturday inches nearer and the Terps move closer to a perfect regular season, this matchup between the Terps and Blue Jays will add another thrilling chapter into the storied history of the rivalry. For the Left Bench TV, I'm Alex Gary.
And our thanks to Alex. Katie, that really got me excited for Saturday. We're both going to be in Baltimore, where we were a year ago, and what a win that was for Maryland. Come from behind on the backs of Logan Wisnauskas and Jared Bernhardt.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember the atmosphere when Bernhardt made that game tire and when Logan Wisnauskas won it for the Terps. So it's going to be a good one. It always promises a good game with the rivalry.
Yes, it is. Maryland Johns Hopkins on Saturday in Baltimore. That does it for this edition of The Left Bench in Focus. We'll see you next week on The Left Bench TV, and stay tuned for when we take a closer look at the women's lacrosse team on May 3rd.
In the meantime, be sure to keep up with all of our coverage on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for joining us.